The knife pressed cold against Maya's throat as Detective Marcus Kane's breath warmed her neck. "You thought you could betray me and walk away?" His voice was dangerously soft, almost a whisper. They were alone in the evidence room, surrounded by sealed boxes containing proof of his crimes she'd helped him commit for 2 years while wearing a wire for internal affairs. Her hands trembled as she felt his body against hers, the same body she'd tangled with in secret hotel rooms, the same hands that had explored every inch of her skin, now holding a weapon that could end her life. "Marcus, please," she breathed. "Please what, Maya? Please forgive you for destroying everything we built together. Please forget that you recorded every conversation, every intimate moment we shared." His free hand traced down her arm, touch gentle despite the blade. "Tell me, was any of it real? Or were you just following orders when you screamed my name?" Maya Rodriguez had exactly 3 rules for undercover work: never get emotionally involved, never break character, and never, ever sleep with a target. She'd followed those rules perfectly for 8 years with the FBI, earning her reputation as the agent who could infiltrate anything from drug cartels to white-collar crime rings. Then she met Marcus Kane, and every rule she'd ever made shattered like glass. Her assignment seemed straightforward when Captain Stevens briefed her in the windowless room at Internal Affairs headquarters. A decorated detective with 15 years on the force, Kane was suspected of running a protection racket that allowed drug dealers to operate freely in exchange for cash and information. 3 officers had already tried to get close to him. All 3 had failed to gather evidence before Kane somehow sensed the trap. "He's smart," Stevens warned, sliding Kane's file across the table. "Paranoid, doesn't trust anyone easily, but he has a weakness." "What weakness?" "Damaged women. His ex-wife, his last girlfriend, even his partner before she transferred out. All of them had troubled pasts. He likes to play savior." Maya stared at Kane's photograph. Dark hair, sharp jaw, eyes that seemed to see straight through the camera lens. He was handsome in that dangerous way that made smart women do stupid things. She'd need to be careful. "So you want me to be damaged," she said flatly. "I want you to be you. Your real file is damaged enough." That stung, but it was true. Maya's father had been a cop killed in the line of duty when she was 12. Her mother had descended into pills and alcohol. Maya had raised her younger brother while fighting her way through college and the academy. She'd survived an abusive relationship at 23 that left scars on her ribs and her psyche. She didn't need to fake being damaged. She just needed to let Kane see it. Maya's cover was simple: a new patrol officer transferred from Chicago, running from a messy divorce in a department that didn't take her seriously. She showed up at the precinct on a Monday morning with dark circles under her eyes and a carefully calibrated mix of competence and vulnerability. Kane noticed her immediately. She felt his gaze during roll call, tracking her as she collected her gear and partnered with Officer Davis for her first patrol. When she grabbed coffee in the break room before heading out, he appeared beside her. "Maya Rodriguez," he said, not a question. His voice was deeper than she'd expected, rough around the edges like whiskey and smoke. "Heard you transferred from Chicago." She kept her expression neutral, guarded. "Word travels fast." "Small precinct. People talk." He poured himself coffee, movements deliberate and controlled. Everything about him radiated contained power, the way he stood, the way he watched her, even the way he held the cup. "Running from something or running towards something? Does it matter?" "Depends on whether you're running from trouble or bringing it with you." Maya met his eyes directly, letting him see the flash of defiance she knew he'd find attractive. "Maybe I'm the trouble." Something shifted in his expression. Interest, recognition, the first spark of heat. Then you'll fit right in here." He walked away, but Maya felt the weight of his attention even after he disappeared down the hallway. The wire taped to her ribs suddenly felt like a brand. For 3 weeks, Maya played her role perfectly. She was good at her job, but not so good she stood out. She kept to herself, but wasn't unfriendly. She deflected personal questions while dropping carefully crafted hints about her fictional troubled past. Kane circled her like a shark sensing blood in the water. He showed up during her shifts with coffee, offered advice about navigating precinct politics, asked subtle questions about her ex-husband, her reasons for leaving Chicago, her plans for the future. Maya answered with practiced vulnerability, letting him see calculated glimpses of pain while maintaining enough walls to make him want to tear them down. The attraction was immediate and undeniable. Maya felt it every time they were in the same room. The electrical charge in the air, the way conversations felt like foreplay, the magnetic pull that made her hyper-aware of where he was at all times. She told herself it was just part of the act, that the racing pulse and heated skin were professional tools, biological responses she could control and manipulate. She was lying to herself, and some part of her knew it. It happened on a Friday night after a particularly brutal week. Maya had been working a domestic violence case that hit too close to home, and her carefully maintained composure had cracked just enough for Kane to notice. He found her in the precinct gym at midnight, taking her frustration out on a punching bag. She sensed him before she saw him, her body attuned to his presence in a way that should have terrified her. "You're going to break your hand," he said, from the doorway. "Then I'll break my hand." She threw another punch, bare knuckles connecting with worn leather. Kane crossed the room in 3 strides and caught her wrist mid-swing. His grip was firm but not painful, his palm warm against her overheated skin. "Talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." "Bullshit! You've been wound tight all week, and tonight you're in here trying to punch through concrete." He didn't release her wrist, his thumb tracing circles against her racing pulse. "The domestic case?" Maya wanted to pull away, should have pulled away, but his touch felt like an anchor when she was drowning, and God help her, she didn't want to let go. "My ex used to hit me," she heard herself say. The lie came easily because it was built on truth, just truth from her cover story, not her real past. Seeing that woman with her split lip and black eye, watching her make excuses for him, it took me back. Kane's jaw tightened, something dangerous flashing in his eyes. "Where is he now? Your ex?" "Chicago, probably beating his new girlfriend." "Give me a name, Maya. I'll make sure he never touches another woman." She should have been recording this, should have pushed for details about his methods, his connections. Instead, she looked up at him and whispered, "Why do you care?" "Because I see you." His free hand came up to cup her jaw, touch gentle despite the violence she'd heard in his voice moments before. "I see the warrior you're trying to hide under all that damage, and I want—" He stopped himself, but Maya saw the hunger in his eyes, felt the tension in his body, knew with absolute certainty that if she didn't walk away right now, everything would change. She didn't walk away. "What do you want, Marcus?" Her voice was barely a whisper. His thumb traced her bottom lip. "You. I want you." When he kissed her, Maya's mind screamed warnings that her body completely ignored. His mouth was demanding, possessive, claiming her like he had every right. She should have pushed him away, should have remembered the wire in her apartment, the mission, the 3 rules she'd sworn never to break. Instead, she pulled him closer and kissed him back like she was drowning and he was air. They didn't make it out of the gym. Kane lifted her onto a weight bench, his hands sliding under her shirt, mapping her body with an urgency that matched her own. Maya wrapped her legs around him and surrendered to the heat, to the wanting, to the terrifying rightness of his touch. Later, tangled together in the darkness with their breathing still ragged, Kane pressed his lips to her temple and whispered, "You're mine now, Maya. I protect what's mine." And Maya, with the weight of her deception already crushing her chest, whispered back, "I know." The affair consumed them both with frightening intensity. Maya had been undercover before, had played roles and manipulated targets, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of Marcus Kane. He was brilliant and brutal, protective, and possessive, capable of stunning tenderness and calculated violence in equal measure. He ran his protection racket with military precision, ensuring dealers paid their tribute while maintaining plausible deniability. He was careful, paranoid, always watching for threats. But with Maya, he was different, vulnerable, real. "My father was a cop," he told her one night in a hotel room across town, where they met twice a week to avoid precinct gossip. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder, touch absent-minded and intimate. Dirty as they come, took bribes, planted evidence, beat confessions out of suspects. Everyone knew, but nobody touched him because he had too much dirt on everyone else. Maya's heart pounded. This was the kind of confession internal affairs needed. But the wire was back in her apartment, and all she had was her memory and the man beside her who was trusting her with his secrets. "What happened to him?" she asked softly. "Shot himself when I was 16, left a note saying he couldn't live with what he'd become." Marcus's voice was flat, emotionless. "I joined the force thinking I'd be different, better, cleaner. And I learned that the system is corrupt from the inside out, that playing by the rules just means watching criminals walk free while good cops get buried. So I made my own rules." He pulled her closer, his body warm against hers. "I don't hurt innocent people, Maya. I just make sure the real predators pay their share." It was a rationalization, a way of justifying crimes that hurt communities and destroyed lives. Maya knew she should challenge him, push back, use this moment to deepen his confession. Instead, she turned in his arms and kissed him, silencing both his words and her conscience. Captain Stevens was not pleased with her progress. 2 months in, and all we have are vague statements about corruption and some circumstantial evidence, he said during their weekly debrief in a surveillance van 3 blocks from her apartment. "We need hard proof, Rodriguez. Names, dates, transactions." "He's careful," Maya defended, hating how defensive she sounded. "He doesn't discuss business around me." "Then get him to discuss business around you. Wear the wire more. Push him for details." Stevens leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Or are you getting too close to the target?" "I'm doing my job." "Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're sleeping with a dirty cop and forgetting to record the evidence we need to bury him." The accusation stung because it was partially true. Maya was selective about when she wore the wire, telling herself she was building trust, waiting for the right moment. But really, she was protecting Marcus from herself. "Give me another month," she said. "I'm close to getting access to his records." "You have 2 weeks, Rodriguez, then I'm pulling you out and sending someone else in." That night, Maya taped the wire to her ribs with shaking hands. When Marcus arrived at the hotel room, she was already drowning in self-loathing. He sensed something was wrong immediately. "Talk to me. I got written up today. My sergeant says my reports are sloppy, that I'm not focused." The lie came easily, built on a foundation of real anxiety. "What if they fire me, Marcus? What if I have to go back to Chicago?" Marcus's expression darkened. "You're not going anywhere. I'll talk to your sergeant." "No, don't. That'll just make it worse." Maya forced tears, not hard when guilt was already choking her. I need to prove I'm good at this job, that I belong here." "You're an excellent cop," Marcus said fiercely, pulling her into his arms. "Don't let anyone tell you different." Against his chest, Maya whispered, "Then help me. Show me how you do it, how you survive in this system." She felt him tense, sensed the internal debate. This was it, the moment he'd either trust her completely or pull away forever. "Okay," he finally said. "But you have to understand, Maya, once I show you, there's no going back. You'll be just as dirty as me." "I want to be dirty with you," she whispered, and hated herself for meaning it even as she spoke the words. Marcus brought her into his world slowly, carefully, testing her reactions at each step. First, he showed her how he collected payments, dealers dropping envelopes at specific locations, money that never officially existed. Then he introduced her to his network. Other dirty cops, corrupt lawyers, city officials on the take. Maya recorded everything with the wire pressed against her ribs like a betrayal made physical. She memorized names and faces, noted transactions and locations. She was building an airtight case that would destroy not just Marcus, but an entire network of corruption. And every night she went home and vomited from the guilt. "You're good at this," Marcus said one evening after she'd successfully collected payment from a dealer while wearing a wire. They were in his car, parked in a dark lot, his hand on her thigh. "Natural. Like you were born for this life." Maya's stomach churned. "I learned from the best." He pulled her into a kiss that tasted like sin and salvation. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "You know that, right?" She froze. They'd never said the words before, had maintained the fiction that this was just sex and survival. But now, with those 3 words hanging in the air between them, Maya felt the last of her defenses crumble. "I love you too," she whispered back, and meant it with every fiber of her being. She was in love with the man she was about to destroy. Maya should have seen the signs. Marcus was a detective, trained to spot lies and deception. He'd survived 15 years in a brutal system by trusting his instincts. and his instincts had been screaming warnings for weeks. He found the wire by accident, or maybe not by accident. Maybe he'd been looking. They were in the hotel room, and his hand had slipped under her shirt, fingers tracing the familiar path along her ribs. Then he'd stopped, frozen, his touch hovering over the small device taped to her skin. "What is this?" His voice was eerily calm. Maya's heart stopped. "Marcus, what is this?" Not a question anymore. A demand. She could have lied. Could have claimed it was a medical device, a monitoring system, anything. But she was so tired of lying, so exhausted from living between two worlds, that the truth spilled out like poison. "It's a wire. I'm internal affairs." The silence that followed felt like death. Marcus stepped back, his face transforming into something cold and dangerous. "How long?" "From the beginning. I was assigned to investigate. From the beginning." He laughed, bitter and sharp. "Every conversation, every confession, every time I told you I loved you, all of it was recorded." "No, I didn't always wear it. Most of the time it was just us." "Just us?" His voice rose. "There is no just us, Maya. There's an undercover agent and her target. That's all we've ever been." "That's not true." She reached for him, desperate. "What we have is real. My feelings are real." "Your feelings?" He grabbed her wrist, grip painfully tight. "You destroyed me while pretending to love me. You let me inside your body while planning to put me in prison. And you want me to believe your feelings were real?" "They are. Marcus, I love you. That's why this is killing me." "Not as much as it's going to kill me." He released her wrist and pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "How long do I have before they arrest me?" Maya's mind raced. "I don't know. I haven't submitted my final report yet. Marcus, we can figure this out." "Figure what out? How to make you slightly less of a traitor? How to forgive you for using my love as a weapon?" He looked at her with such contempt that she physically flinched. "You want to know the worst part? I suspected something was wrong weeks ago. My instincts told me you were hiding something. But I ignored them because I was in love with you. I chose you over my own survival." "Then choose me now." Maya grabbed his shirt, desperate. "We can run, together. I'll give you everything I have on the operation, help you disappear." "And become a fugitive with the woman who destroyed my life?" Marcus pulled her hands away, but gently. Even now, even in his rage, he was careful not to hurt her. "No, Maya, you made your choice when you took this assignment. Now, you get to live with it." He turned toward the door. "Marcus, wait." He spun back, crossing the room in 2 strides. Then he was kissing her, hard, desperate, furious. His hands tangled in her hair, his body pressing her against the wall with bruising force. Maya kissed him back just as desperately, tasting salt from tears she didn't remember shedding. When he finally pulled away, his eyes were dark with something between love and hate. "That's goodbye," he whispered, "because the next time I see you, I won't be the man you fell in love with. I'll be the criminal you created." Then he was gone, leaving Maya alone in a hotel room that smelled like betrayal and broken promises. Marcus Kane disappeared like smoke. One moment he existed in the system, badge, gun, apartment, life, and the next he was a ghost. Internal Affairs raided his apartment and found nothing. His bank accounts were cleaned out. His known associates claimed ignorance. Maya was suspended pending investigation. Captain Stevens was furious, convinced she'd warned Kane and helped him escape. She denied it, but the truth was more complicated. She hadn't warned him explicitly, but her love had been warning enough. "You let him get away," Stevens accused during a brutal interrogation. "All those months undercover, all that evidence, and you let him walk because you were too busy fucking him to remember your job." "I got you everything you needed," Maya shot back. "Names, dates, transactions. You can still bring down the network." "But not Kane. He's the kingpin, Rodriguez. Without him, everyone else scatters. You had one job and your feelings got in the way." Maya wanted to argue, to defend herself. But Stevens was right. She'd compromised the entire operation because she'd fallen in love with her target. She just didn't realize how much worse it was about to get. Maya found the first message on her car, a simple note tucked under the windshield wiper. "Did you really think I'd just disappear?" Her blood ran cold. She looked around the parking garage, searching shadows for movement, but saw nothing. Marcus was watching her, hunting her, and she had no idea what he planned to do. The second message arrived at her apartment. A photo slipped under her door showing her and Stevens meeting in the surveillance van. Someone had been watching her entire operation. Marcus had known for longer than she'd thought, and he'd been gathering evidence of his own. The third message was a video sent to her phone at 3 a.m. Marcus, looking tired but dangerous, speaking directly to the camera. "You took everything from me, Maya. My career, my freedom, my ability to trust anyone. So now I'm going to take something from you. I haven't decided what yet. Your career, your safety, or maybe just your peace of mind. But you're going to understand what it feels like to lose everything while the person you love watches." The video ended with him saying, "Run, Maya. It'll make this more interesting." Maya didn't run. Instead, she went on the offensive. She requested access to the evidence room where Marcus's case files were stored, claiming she needed to review her own reports. Once inside, she started building a profile of where Marcus might go, who might help him, what resources he had available. That's when she found the discrepancies. Someone had been altering evidence in the precinct system. Money amounts didn't match, dates were changed, some of the recordings from her wire had been edited. Subtle cuts that changed the context of conversations, making Marcus look more guilty than the original evidence suggested. Internal Affairs had been padding the case against Marcus, manufacturing evidence to ensure conviction, and Maya's own recordings had been used as the foundation for their lies. "Oh, God," she whispered, staring at her computer screen. "What have I done?" Maya should have gone to her superiors immediately, should have reported the evidence tampering, and started the process of exposing corruption within Internal Affairs itself. Instead, she sent a message to Marcus through a channel she knew he was monitoring. "They falsified evidence. The case is compromised. We need to talk." He responded within an hour. "Evidence room, midnight. Come alone or don't come at all." It was obviously a trap. Marcus had every reason to want revenge, and Maya had no backup, no wire, no way to prove whatever happened next. But she went anyway, because guilt and love were more powerful than common sense. She found him waiting in the shadows, exactly as she'd expected. But she didn't expect the knife, didn't expect him to move so fast, pressing the blade against her throat while his body pinned her against the evidence shelves. "You thought you could betray me and walk away?" His voice was dangerously soft, almost a whisper. They were alone, surrounded by sealed boxes containing proof of his crimes she'd helped him commit for 2 years while wearing a wire for Internal Affairs. Her hands trembled as she felt his body against hers, the same body she'd tangled with in secret hotel rooms, the same hands that had explored every inch of her skin, now holding a weapon that could end her life. "Marcus, please," she breathed. "Please what, Maya? Please forgive you for destroying everything we built together? Please forget that you recorded every conversation, every intimate moment we shared?" His free hand traced down her arm, touch gentle despite the blade. "Tell me, was any of it real? Or were you just following orders when you screamed my name?" Maya's eyes filled with tears. "It was real, all of it. I fell in love with you, Marcus. That's why I couldn't submit my final report. Why I hesitated. Why you what? Why you feel guilty now that you see the consequences." The knife pressed harder, not enough to cut, but enough to remind her how easily he could. "I don't want your guilt, Maya. I want the truth. Did you or did you not falsify evidence?" "No, I documented what I saw, what you told me. But Internal Affairs altered my recordings. They changed dates and amounts to make the case stronger. I didn't know until tonight, I swear." "Prove it," Maya's mind raced. "The original files. I backed everything up on a secure server, just in case something went wrong. The unedited versions will show the discrepancies." Marcus was silent for a long moment, his body still pressed against hers, the knife still at her throat. Then, slowly, he lowered the blade. "Show me," he said. They broke into Internal Affairs headquarters at 2 a.m., using Marcus's knowledge of security systems and Maya's access codes. It was insane and illegal, and would likely destroy any chance either of them had at redemption. But Maya was past caring about redemption. She just wanted the truth. The evidence was damning. Side-by-side comparisons showed how Internal Affairs had manipulated Maya's recordings to inflate amounts, change timelines, and create connections that didn't exist. They'd taken a case about one dirty cop and inflated it into a massive conspiracy, using Marcus as the fall guy. They needed a big conviction, Marcus said, staring at the screens. The department's under investigation for corruption, so they manufactured a corruption case they could actually win, using you. Using both of us, Maya corrected. She looked at him, really looked at him for the first time since the hotel room. He looked exhausted, haunted, older than his years. You were right to run. With this evidence, they would have buried you. They still will, unless, Marcus turned to her, eyes sharp, unless we expose them first. What are you suggesting? We take everything public. The original recordings, the altered evidence, all of it. We blow up internal affairs case and show everyone how corrupt the system really is. That'll destroy both of us, Maya said quietly. I'll be seen as a traitor who helped a criminal escape. You'll be, what? A victim? A hero? They'll still find a way to prosecute you. Maybe, but at least it'll be for what I actually did, not what they fabricated. Marcus stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her jaw the way he used to. And maybe, if we're lucky, we both survive long enough to figure out what comes next. Maya leaned into his touch, knowing it was weakness, not caring. Do you hate me? Yes, he said simply. And I love you. Both things are true, Maya. You destroyed my life while giving me the only honest relationship I've ever had, so I hate you for the betrayal and love you for the truth. Does that make sense? No, she whispered. But nothing about us has ever made sense. He kissed her then, soft, desperate, full of everything they couldn't say. Maya kissed him back, tasting forgiveness and fury in equal measure. If we do this, Marcus said against her lips, there's no going back. We'll both be fugitives, wanted, hunted. I know. And we might not survive. Internal affairs has powerful friends. Going public makes us targets. I know that too. Then why are you doing this? Why risk everything for me? Maya pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Because I love you. Because you deserve the truth. And because I'm tired of living in a corrupt system that punishes honesty more than it punishes crime. Marcus's expression softened, some of the hardness leaving his eyes. You're going to make an excellent fugitive, Maya Rodriguez. We'll find out together. They copied the files to encrypted drives and prepared a data dump that would go live at dawn. Then, they burned their badges, destroyed their phones, and disappeared into the night. Together. The story broke like a bomb at 6 a.m. Every major news outlet received the same package: original recordings, altered evidence, internal memos showing internal affairs conspiracy to manufacture cases. Within hours, federal investigators were swarming the precinct. Careers imploded. Arrests were made. Maya and Marcus watched it unfold from a motel 3 states away, their new fake IDs already in place. Captain Stevens is claiming he knew nothing about the alterations, Maya said, reading news updates on a burner laptop. Says rogue agents acted without his knowledge. He's lying, Marcus said from the bed where he was cleaning a gun Maya didn't want to think about how he'd acquired. Stevens signed off on every piece of evidence. His signature is all over those internal memos. Federal investigators will figure it out. Maybe. Or maybe he's connected enough to wriggle free. Marcus set the gun aside and looked at her. How do you feel? About burning down your career? Maya considered the question honestly. She'd spent her entire adult life working toward the FBI, building a reputation, proving herself in a male-dominated field. Now she was a fugitive with a fabricated identity, wanted for obstruction of justice and aiding a criminal escape. Free, she finally said, terrified and guilty and probably insane, but also free. Marcus smiled, a real smile, the first she'd seen since before the hotel room confrontation. That's the first honest thing you've said since I met you. Not true. I told you I loved you. Yeah, while wearing a wire and planning my arrest. But there was no heat in the words anymore, just weary acknowledgement. We're going to have to talk about that eventually, about what you did, about whether we can actually build something real from this mess. I know, but not today. Not today, Maya agreed. They had time now, all the time in the world, as long as they stayed off the grid. Rebuilding trust between two people who'd betrayed each other was neither romantic nor easy. There were fights, loud, vicious arguments where years of resentment and hurt spilled out like poison. There were nights when Marcus couldn't look at her without seeing the wire, mornings when Maya woke up terrified he'd leave or, worse, hurt her. But there were also moments of painful honesty. "I used you," Maya admitted one night in a safe house in Oregon, 6 weeks after they'd gone public. "Not just for the case. I used you emotionally because being with you made me feel powerful and desired and dangerous in ways I'd never let myself feel before." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I used you too. You were proof that I could still be good, that someone decent could love me despite what I'd become. I turned you into my absolution. We're both terrible people, yeah. But maybe we can be terrible together in a slightly less destructive way." It wasn't forgiveness. It was something more complicated. Acknowledgement that their relationship had been built on lies and manipulation, but that the feelings beneath the lies had been genuine. They couldn't erase the past, but they could choose differently going forward. They moved constantly those first few months, never staying anywhere long enough to establish patterns. Maya cut and dyed her hair. Marcus grew a beard and wore glasses. They took jobs that paid cash: construction, waitressing, farm work. It was exhausting and terrifying, and nothing like either of them had imagined. But slowly, they built something that resembled a life. "I never asked," Marcus said one evening in Montana, where they were living in a cabin 50 miles from the nearest town. "What did you want to be, before the FBI?" Maya looked up from the book she was reading. "A teacher, history specifically. I wanted to help kids understand the past so they could make better choices in the future." "That's unexpectedly wholesome," says the dirty cop. "Former dirty cop. I'm reformed now." Marcus grinned. "What stopped you from teaching?" "My dad died, and I wanted to honor his memory by joining law enforcement. But also, I was angry. Teaching felt too gentle, too ineffective. I wanted to fight." "And now?" "Now I'm tired of fighting." Maya set her book aside. "What about you? What would you have been if the system hadn't broken you?" Marcus was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "A father. I wanted kids, a family, the whole domestic dream. My ex-wife wanted that too, until she realized what I'd become. She left, and I told myself it was better that way, that I'd spare some hypothetical children the disappointment of having me as a father." Maya's chest ached. "You would have been a good father." "Would have been. Past tense. That life isn't possible anymore. Maybe not that exact life, but maybe—" She trailed off, not sure how to finish the thought. Marcus understood anyway. "You want to know if we can have something normal? Build a future that isn't just survival? I want to know if you can forgive me enough to try." He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, holding her with a gentleness that still surprised her. "I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. But I'm here, aren't I? Still choosing you despite everything." "Why?" Maya asked into his chest. "Why do you stay?" "Because loving you is the most honest thing I've ever done. Even the anger and hurt, that's real too. You make me feel things I thought I'd buried forever, and I'd rather feel everything with you than feel nothing alone." It wasn't a declaration of perfect love, but it was truth, and truth was all they had left. 9 months after going public, the federal investigation concluded. Captain Stevens and 3 other internal affairs officers were indicted for evidence tampering and conspiracy. The cases they'd built, including Marcus's, were thrown out due to prosecutorial misconduct. An FBI agent named Sarah Chen, who'd been assigned to investigate the original corruption allegations, reached out through encrypted channels with an offer: full immunity for both of you in exchange for testimony about the corruption network and internal affairs involvement. You'd have to give up your fugitive identities and face the media circus, but you'd be free. No charges, no warrants. Clean slate. Maya and Marcus sat in their Montana cabin, staring at the message for a long time. "They're offering us our lives back," Maya finally said. "They're offering us the chance to testify against people who will spend the rest of their lives trying to destroy us," Marcus corrected. "Even with immunity, we'd be targets. Every cop with a grudge, every criminal I put away, everyone connected to that network, they'd all want revenge. So we stay fugitives, keep running forever? We keep running together, build something here off the grid. Maybe it's not the life either of us planned, but it's ours. No more lies, no more systems, just us. Maya looked around their small cabin. Rough furniture, wood-burning stove, windows that overlooked endless forest. It was primitive and isolated, and nothing like the life she'd imagined. It was also the most honest place she'd ever lived. "What if I want both?" she asked quietly. "What if I want to testify, get our names cleared, and then come back here? Have the freedom to exist in the world without always looking over our shoulders?" Marcus considered this. "That's a lot of what-ifs. We've survived on what-ifs for 9 months. What's a few more?" He pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "If we do this, if we go back, it changes everything. Again. I know. We might hate each other by the end of it. We might. But we also might finally be free. Really free." Maya tilted her head back to look at him. "Is that what you want? Freedom?" "I want you," Marcus said simply. "Everything else is negotiable." They contacted Agent Chen the next day and began the long process of coming back from the dead. The federal trial was a media sensation. Marcus Kane, the dirty cop who'd exposed corruption within internal affairs, and Maya Rodriguez, the FBI agent who'd fallen in love with her target, their story had everything the media craved. Maya testified for 3 days, laying out the entire undercover operation with painful honesty. Yes, she'd developed feelings for Marcus. Yes, those feelings had compromised her judgment. But no, she hadn't falsified evidence. That corruption belonged solely to internal affairs. Marcus's testimony was even more explosive. He detailed 15 years of systemic corruption, naming names and providing documentation that implicated dozens of officers, city officials, and criminals. He didn't minimize his own crimes, but he made it clear that internal affairs, manufactured evidence, had distorted the truth beyond recognition. "I'm guilty," he told the court, "but I'm guilty of what I actually did, not what they invented. And I'm here because Maya Rodriguez had the courage to expose both my crimes and theirs. She's the real hero in this story." In the gallery, Maya felt tears she wouldn't allow herself to shed. Marcus was defending her, even now, even knowing what she'd done. The trial concluded with convictions for Captain Stevens and his co-conspirators. Marcus and Maya received full immunity as promised, their slate wiped clean. But clean slates didn't erase the past. They moved to Portland, Oregon, big enough for anonymity, progressive enough that nobody looked twice at their unconventional story. Maya enrolled in graduate school to finish the teaching degree she'd abandoned 20 years earlier. Marcus started working as a consultant for police reform initiatives, using his insider knowledge to help cities identify and root out corruption. They lived in a small apartment with secondhand furniture and plants on every windowsill. They grocery shopped and did laundry and argued about whose turn it was to cook dinner. They were aggressively, determinedly normal. But normal didn't erase the weight of what they'd been through. "I keep waiting for you to leave," Marcus admitted one night after a particularly brutal therapy session. They'd both been seeing therapists individually and as a couple, working through trauma and trust issues. "Waiting for you to realize you could have someone easier, someone who isn't fundamentally broken." Maya looked up from the essays she was grading. "You think I'm not broken?" "Marcus, I built a career on lying and manipulation. I fell in love with someone I was supposed to destroy. I'm not the stable, healthy alternative here." "But you're trying. You're building something positive, teaching kids, making a difference. What am I doing? Talking about corruption to people who will never really trust me because of what I was?" "You're making amends." Maya set her papers aside and moved to sit beside him on their worn couch. "You're using what you learned in the darkness to help others find the light. That's not nothing. It doesn't feel like enough. It never will. That's the price of awareness. You'll always know you could do more." She took his hand, threading their fingers together. "But that doesn't mean what you're doing isn't valuable, or that you don't deserve peace." "Do I? Deserve peace?" "I don't know," Maya said honestly. "But I know you deserve the chance to find out. We both do." Marcus proposed on a random Tuesday evening, 6 months after they'd settled in Portland. No ring, no elaborate plan, just the two of them in their apartment after dinner, washing dishes side by side. "Marry me," he said, hands in soapy water, voice casual. Maya dropped the dish she was drying. "What?" "Marry me, make it official, build something permanent with me." Marcus, we're barely functional as a couple. We're in therapy 3 times a week. We argue about everything from politics to what kind of coffee to buy, and I want to argue with you for the rest of my life." He turned to face her fully, hands dripping water on the floor. "I'm not offering you perfect, Maya. I can't. But I can offer you honest. I can offer you a partner who sees all your damage and loves you anyway, who knows exactly what you're capable of, the good and the terrible, and chooses you every single day." That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's the only one you'll ever get from me. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that made him look younger. "So what do you say? Want to legally bind yourself to the man you once tried to destroy?" Maya's eyes filled with tears, grief and joy and exhaustion all mixing together. "Yes. God help me, yes." They got married at the courthouse 3 weeks later, with Agent Sarah Chen as their witness and therapy appointments scheduled for that evening. It was unromantic and practical and absolutely perfect for who they were. "I can't promise this will work," Maya said during their vows. "I can't promise I won't resent you sometimes," Marcus replied. "I can promise I'll try. Every day I'll try. That's all we've got, trying. Then let's try together." The courthouse clerk pronounced them married, and they sealed it with a kiss that tasted like redemption and risk in equal measure. 2 years later, they were still trying. Maya finished her graduate degree and got a job teaching history at a community college. She specialized in courses about corruption, power, and resistance, helping students understand the systems that shaped their lives. She was good at it, passionate, finally using her analytical skills for something that built instead of destroyed. Marcus continued his consulting work and started writing a book about police reform. It was hard, painful work that required him to constantly confront his past sins, but he did it anyway, because atonement was a practice, not a destination. They fought, often, about big things and small things, about the past and the future, about whether they were really okay or just pretending to be. But they fought fair now, with honesty instead of weapons. "Do you regret it?" Maya asked one evening as they walked through their neighborhood. "Everything we went through." "Which part? Falling in love with you, going corrupt, getting exposed, becoming fugitives. There are so many options." "All of it. Do you regret the whole messy disaster?" Marcus was quiet for several steps. "No, because even the worst parts led me here, to this life, with you, and this life, imperfect and complicated as it is the most honest thing I've ever had. Even though I betrayed you, even though you betrayed me, even though I terrified you, even though we almost destroyed each other." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "We're building something better from the wreckage, Maya. That's all anyone can do." She kissed him there on the sidewalk, in full view of neighbors and strangers, claiming him publicly in a way she'd never been able to when they were hiding. "I love you," she said when they broke apart. "I know I don't say it enough. You say it every day, in the way you stay, in the way you fight for us, in the way you refuse to give up even when it's hard." Marcus pulled her close. "Words are cheap, Maya. Actions are what matter. And you've been showing me love through your actions since the day you chose to expose the corruption, instead of just exposing me. That's an incredibly low bar. It's our bar, and we've been clearing it one day at a time." They continued walking, hands linked, 2 damaged people building something surprisingly beautiful from the rubble of who they used to be. It wasn't the love story either of them had imagined, but it was theirs. Messy, honest, and absolutely earned. And that made it perfect. 5 years after their wedding, Maya and Marcus stood in their backyard, an actual backyard, in a house they'd bought together, watching the sunset. "She called today," Maya said. "Agent Chen wants us to consult on a new corruption case, some local PD covering up excessive force incidents." "What did you tell her?" "That we'd think about it." Maya leaned against him. "Should we? Do you want to?" "Part of me does. Part of me thinks we've earned the right to just live quietly and let someone else fight the battles." "Both things can be true." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "We don't have to decide tonight or tomorrow. We can just be." "Just be," Maya repeated, tasting the words. "When did we become people who could just be?" When we stopped running from who we were and started building who we wanted to become. In the house behind them, dinner was probably burning. Their cat was probably destroying something expensive. The mortgage was due next week, and they needed to call Marcus's mother, and Maya had essays to grade. It was mundane and domestic, and nothing like the adrenaline-fueled chaos of their early relationship. It was also everything they'd fought for. "I'm happy," Maya said, surprised by the realization. "Not perfectly happy, not all the time, but right now, in this moment, I'm happy." "Good," Marcus said simply. "That's enough." And it was.